Sanctuary Moon of Endor, abandoned Imperial outpost. Years earlier, before Jason had been born, before in fact Luke and Leia knew they were siblings, before Leia had confessed even to herself that she was in love with Han, Yoda had told Luke that electrical shocks applied at different intensities and at irregular but frequent intervals would prevent a Jedi from concentrating, from channeling the Force. They could render a Jedi helpless. But Yoda had never told Luke that emotional shocks could do the same thing. They could, and just as no amount of self-control would allow a Jedi to ignore the effects of electrical shock on his body, neither could self-control keep Luke safely out of his memories. Every few moments, a memory freshly applied like a current-bearing wire on his skin would yank him out of the here and now and propel him into the recent past. Boarding the Anakin Solo. Finding Jason torturing Luke's only child, his son Ben. The duel that followed Luke against his nephew he'd once loved. The nephew who now commands master level abilities in the Force, though he had not been and never will be elevated to a rank of a Jedi Master. And no pain Luke suffered in that fight was equal to Ben's demanding the right to finish Jason. That demand had brought Luke to where he was now, sitting cross-legged on the floor of an upper-story room of an abandoned Imperial outpost, staring through a wide, transparent steel viewport at a lush indoor forest. He was barely aware of his body healing, but his spirit's sick and injured even after all these days. Shocked almost beyond understanding by Ben's bloodthirst, Luke had prevented his son from executing a death blow against Jason. Nor had Luke chosen to finish Jason himself. He had led Ben in sudden flight from the Anakin Solo, a flight to prevent Ben from taking the next, possibly irreversible step towards the dark side that Jason had planned for the boy. But was it the right decision? At that moment, it had seemed like the only possible choice. Ben's future, his decency, had teetered in the balance. Had either Skywalker killed Jason, Ben would have fallen towards the dark. But some people come back from the dark. Luke had. Others didn't. Ben becoming a lifelong agent of evil had not been a certainty. What was certain was that Jason was alive, and now, as Jason furthered his plans for galactic conquest, more people would die. They would die by the thousands at least, probably by the tens of hundreds of thousands, perhaps the millions. And Luke would be responsible. So had it been that right decision? Ben against thousands of lives? Logic said no. No, unless in falling to the dark side, Ben became as great a force for evil as Jason Solo was for their mutual grandfather, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, had been. Emotion said yes, unless Ben interpreted Luke's refusal to kill as a sign of weakness. And that decision fostered contempt in him, contempt for Luke and the light side of the Force. That could push him along Jason's path despite Luke's intent. So there you have it. That was the clip. Luke, he's on the Sanctuary Moon of Endor, and he is in contemplation and deep thought and meditation about his actions between him and his nephew when he snuck upon the Anakin Solo, and it ended up being a rescue mission, rescuing his son from torture from his nephew Jason, which is now Darth Caedus. and he questions his actions within the Force and within the galaxy and how that may have repercussions with keeping Jason alive. But then also he understands that by not killing him helps keep them away from the dark side as well. So there's a lot of that questioning going on there. So I thought that was very compelling. And he does acknowledge that his nephew is strong in the Force and could match the Masters and be a Master Jedi or Jedi Master. And he just doesn't take that because of the fact he's been seeing him grow dark since, well, I wouldn't say seen him, but he's felt and had hints of him growing dark earlier in Darkness trilogies from the effects of the Vong. And he does question him and so does Mara, about his thought process mirroring Sidious and Vader's, or the Emperor's and Vader's. And then going into the beginning of Legacy of the Force. So it's a huge setup here into Darth Cadus's arc, and then also Luke's arc on not pursuing him because he first, wanted to redeem him as much as he could, or even if he pursued him later, you'll find out more about how he chooses not to pursue him because of going dark. And the same with his son. So in this book, we have Second Galactic War continues and escalates, and we see the use of Alliance, the use of meteors by the Alliance to decimate Commonor. Also, the Center Point Station is now operational again, and its target is to be Coruscant. And there is also a biological weapons being executed, or attempt to being executed on Coruscant as well. So we see the Galactic War, Second Galactic War, happening and in full effect. The Jedi's priority is to go after Lima because, they assume that she's the one that killed Mara because of the evidence that they think they have, or not evidence, but because what she uses poison darts and all that. And that's what killed Mara. However, they don't understand who it was just yet. And we also see the One Sith. So the One Sith is in the series now too, throughout it a little bit. And it links, this with Fate of the Jedi all the way into Legacy. So we start seeing the hints of One Sith. And so they're in pursuit of Alima as well. Then, because Tenno Call took her fleet away from Jason, and he feels betrayed, he goes and abducts his own daughter. And this is a pawn for her to give her or him back her fleet. And also on top of that, the Jedi also send out a strike team against Jason on Coruscant in the underworld, and they pursue Jason, and there's a little fight going on there between all of them, and they affix a tracking device on him, on his cloak. And during that confrontation, Kyle Katarn is gravely injured. And so we have that going on as well, so that they can keep track and trace Jason through his journeys, where he's going to be at and all that. So we have that little bit of fun exposition, I guess you can say, of their confrontation down in the underworld. And it's a great read, seeing what they have to do and what they go through. And in that strike team, there is Kyle Katarn, there is Valen Horn, which is Corran Horn's son, and then we also have Siha Dorvald, and she's another Jedi. And again, we have Luke on Endor, and he's still mourning. He's going through some great struggles and contemplation, how he is as a Jedi Master and how he is within the Force and for the galaxy. And Ben is with him, and Ben starts to see as his father collect himself, and he's content to see his father emerge from his self-grief from mourning Mara Jade. And on Endor, they train together. So Luke finally gets a chance to bond with Ben. As we've seen in the previous books, Ben was always closer to the mom. And through Jason's manipulation, he had some confrontation with his father, Luke. And the fun thing about this part here in this book, with everything in here, this is a great read. You get to really see Luke Skywalker grieving, and Jason's feeling betrayed by his own family and all this. But the best thing about this book is that we get to see, or you get to read about Luke teaching his son how to build his own lightsaber. And so that is a thing. To become a Jedi, part of your transformation is building your lightsaber. And it's a great thing. And I've covered that recently in the new material of Disney Star Wars, excuse me, about Luke's yellow lightsaber, but we're not going to go into detail because it's all about Legends. It's all about our original EU. So we have also Ben still suspects Jason as the killer of his mother, and later there will be evidence he provides to share with the GA, with the Jedi and all that, and Lon Shivu is the one that helps him with that, with evidence that Jason is the one that killed his mother. And as we progress in this book, Han Solo sends a strike team, and he's along with him to rescue Alana from Cadus off the Anakin Solo. And so that's another fun and compelling read. And I'm trying not to give it too much information in this book. Sorry, there's no Audible clips. I don't have the Audible for this, and I can't get it right now. And so that's why I read that little excerpt in the beginning. And so they rescue Alana from Jason and return her back to her mom. And we see like Tenno Ka, Queen Mother Tenno Ka, is conflicted because of the fact that, you know, she had to choose, or she was betrayed by Jason, and she had to choose to pull her fleet away from him. And so there's that conflict as well. There's a lot of conflict with everybody associated with Jason and Jason associated with them, and even the parents, even Han and Leia, you know. And so it's a great compelling read. It shows, you know, all the turmoil going inside the Skywalker and Solo family and how they're dealing with their grief, and Luke basically not in exile, but taking the time to seclude himself to overcome grief and, you know, come to terms with his decisions that he has made according to Jason, and, you know, killing him or not killing him, and how that will affect the galaxy. And that's why I love the series, because it mirrors Disney's trilogy, not mirrors, but it parallels it to where we get what people want, the humanity from Luke, without destroying and regressing the character. And lastly, we have Jag and Jaina together here, and they discuss, towards the end of the book, they discuss their relationship a little bit and how she still wants Jag in his life. And the good thing, Jag restores his family honor, and basically he stays with the Jedi and still continues with them and on their missions and stuff. So I suggest this book. It's a great read. It's a great read in the series. And it gives us, like I said, it gives us a great view of Luke as a human species, basically in Star Wars, in a galaxy far, far away, and how he deals with grief, and how he decides as a Grand Master to seclude himself, meditate, and contemplate on how he's feeling and how that affects him in the Force and his decisions. And there's no running away. There's no leaving his family. There's no leaving the galaxy to fight on their own. And in the end, he starts snapping back to his normal self. Of course, he's never going to be his normal self from here on out, especially when we see him back in Fate of the Jedi. So pick up the book. This is Fury. It's a great read. And we get to see father and son relationship and hear more. And this will lead on to the next book, Revelation. And so thank you for tuning in, and may the Force be with you.